get home reasonably early tonight.
That's right. Well, if we can get hold of the people at the end of the night and bring them forward, then we will, but otherwise we won't. Jan Cook.
I suppose I'm going to get told the same thing. Same subject. We have a small batch on a small rural block. It's legally consented. It's been there since about 1960. And I found the building permit the other day. It costs £2, 10 shillings and 6pence. You might be interested to know, about $5, just over $5. So times have changed. Obviously, you've heard a lot about this, I've been hearing. And I suppose I want to say, what is the purpose of the differential? Is it to reflect remoteness of service and therefore lower consumption of the services? And if so, simply being actively farmed doesn't really reflect this. After all, farming is a business and may actually generate quite high demand in the same way that other businesses do. And of course, other commercial industrial activities are actually charged more. So, and also, most farms also include a residence which will use the range of community services that are available. So certainly bare land should qualify. But perhaps the differential could be applied to the land component of the valuation, with full rates being charged on improvements, and that would mean if you had a dwelling, you would pay the full whack on that. I mean, in our instance, my own, where I live on 44 hectares with a dwelling, that's rural, got the rural differential, but in fact I would say I receive a wide range of community services, especially the library. I'm always in there. Residential activities, residential activity, whether it's for a farm or not. So all I was really going to say is that if you simply charge the full rate on the improvements and a differential on the land, then at least that would more fairly reflect the likely demand of services. This current proposal, it might be easy to administer, but it's based on completely arbitrary thresholds. And I don't know if you've heard from anybody mentioning maybe the need to recognise land that's used for conservation activities, which is, and I mean aside from formal covenant, which is the case with our property at Puketahi. Now, we didn't like the farming practices that were going on because we didn't have fences between us and the neighbours. We were kind of subjected to whatever they put on the land and the erosion and the gorse, and decided to do something about that a few years ago. And so while there's full rates for emissions for formal covenants, in the case of some small blocks on the peninsula, certainly could be called conservation land. Also, our area is completely within the coastal environment that's identified in the district plan, so very limited development potential. So that's my comments. Find a fairer system, really.
Yeah, so the system that was, I mean, as you've identified, this really is an administrative decision. So it's a kind of like, it's for administrative ease of assessing whether someone qualifies or not without going through the checklist. So what you're suggesting is that we should take the time, because there is time to review this, because it doesn't have any impact on rates, to leave it as it is. But you're actually suggesting that maybe if we should, in the next annual plan, for example, do a specific consultation, but look at other ways of evaluating the land and potentially, as you say, differentiating between improvements and the land.
Well, first of all, establish just what the purpose of it is.
Yeah.
What you're trying to achieve. I mean, if it's charging fairly for services,
I think it's
something that tries to do that.
It's been different from that, so that hasn't actually been the driver.
Yeah.
So so now the council's been looking for an administratively easy way of not having to go through this 3-tier test that I read out before. So I just think that what you've raised is that we could look at this starting from first principles, which is what is the purpose of the differential, and has it in fact taken into account the different components of, land and improvements, and has it also taken into account, purpose, conservation purpose? Forestry is included, but conservation purpose isn't. There's just, I think you've raised some really good extra points.
Yeah, well, and I guess on the peninsula, maybe there's a historical aspect of farms really were truly remote, 20 or 30 years ago. But now, people are in town every other day, or they're not the remote properties they used to be.
Yeah, I think, services aren't just provided to the household; they're provided for households in centralised locations.
Yeah.
Quite right.
And,
thank you.
And build the cycleways, please. Don't listen to the haters, please.
Thank you.
I'd slip that one in.
You can slip that one in. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.